Dianetics, it's all about allowing you to grow and expand and achieve your full potential in life and be the best, most intelligent, creative, and productive version of you.
This episode discusses the subject of Dianetics for informational and educational purposes only. The content presented is intended to explain and explore the topic, not to promote, endorse, or support Dianetics or any related organization or practice. The views expressed in this episode are part of an open discussion and should not be interpreted as recommendations or professional advice. Listeners are encouraged to do their own research and form their own opinion. Thank you. Hi, and welcome to Don't Shrink to Fit podcast. This podcast is all about you and all the courageous, driven women like you. We are here to inspire, to empower, to share, and to embrace one another. We will be talking with women from different backgrounds and careers about love, family, friendship, their wins and falls, and what it took for them to live the life they love. I am your host, Claudia Noriega-Bernstein, and I am so happy you're here today. Hi, everyone. Today we have Alyssa Burke. Alyssa is a Dianetics specialist with 15 years of experience helping people break through emotional barriers, stress, anxiety, and overwhelm using the techniques of Dianetics. And I'm going to stop there because I am so illiterate about this and I don't know anything. So welcome, and I'm so happy you're here so you can teach us about Dianetics, what you do, and everything involved with that, because I'm sure that a lot of people can benefit from it, but they don't know about it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me, Claudia. It's great to be here with you and with the listeners. And yeah, I'm excited to share about Dianetics because it completely aligns with even just the name and subject matter of your podcast.
Yeah.
Don't shrink to fit. And with Dianetics, it's all about allowing you to grow and expand and achieve your full potential in life. So just to give a very brief overview to start off with, so you get an idea of what Dianetics is. Dianetics is a book. Dianetics itself is a science, and that science is contained in the book Dianetics, the Modern Science of Mental Health, which is written by L. Ron Hubbard. And this is the book here, just so everyone knows what it looks like. And it actually explains how our mind works and how we have two parts to our mind. And you have what's called the analytical mind. That's the conscious, rational part of your mind that you use to remember, to calculate, to solve problems. And that is like your sane thinking part of the mind. Then you have the other part of your mind, which is the subconscious or unconscious mind, and that is called the reactive mind. And this is the part of your mind where all past painful experiences are stored. And that part of your mind uses those past painful experiences against you subconsciously in the present. And the reactive mind is the source of insecurities, unwanted emotions, irrational behavior, or phobias. And so in Dianetics, you actually learn a very simple and very precise methodology to get rid of your reactive mind so that you're able to achieve your full potential and be the best, most intelligent, creative, and productive version of you.
Oh my God, that is so juicy, and you have talked about so many things. First, before we even dig in deeper in this, how did you get into this work?
So I found Dianetics when I was in my later teens, and that's really a time of life where you're kind of doing some searching and you're figuring out, okay, what am I going to do with my life? There's a lot of different expectations and from society and from family and from friends, and you're really looking to understand, and I was really looking to understand, okay, well, what really do I want to achieve in my life? Where am I going? What type of life do I want to build? Someone recommended Dianetics to me, and I read the book, and it answered so many questions that I had about myself. and about why sometimes I would lash out at people that I really cared about, or why sometimes I would, even though I was really good at doing something and I had a skill, I would
Right.
doubt myself that I would be able to actually achieve a certain goal or do a good result at that task when it didn't make sense because I knew that I was competent enough and able enough to do that. So there
Mm-hmm.
were these little things that I would run into. And after I read Dianetics, I really understood, wow, those things that hold me back and those reactions that come out, or the little negative voices in your head that say you're not quite good enough, or you don't want to try it because you don't want to make a fool of yourself. So then you
Right.
just hold yourself back. Those things are not actually me, and those come from the reactive mind. So just even after reading the book and understanding that, it helped me so much and allowed me to then really decide, okay, good. So I have much more certainty in understanding who I am after
Mm-hmm.
understanding the mind and how the mind works. And it helped me to improve not only myself individually, but just my relationships and dealings with other people. And so then from there, because it helped me so much, I really wanted to help other people with it because I saw such a big change in myself and saw what it could do. And so shortly after that, a few years after that, I really started working full time, pretty much, helping
Mm-hmm.
others to find those things that are holding them back in their own lives and in their
Mm-hmm.
selves, and using Dianetics to help them overcome those things.
I think it's so important what you said about that not being who you really are. Because when we have a trigger, when something bothers us, we immediately, after we react, we judge ourselves. I was talking to somebody today earlier that was having some issues with her mom, and she was saying, but I didn't do anything to her. I don't know why she's mad at me. And I was like, she's not mad at you. She's mad at herself. But you are the excuse and the reason why she's mad at herself. She just doesn't know how to translate that in a way that is healthy for her so she can regulate herself and also acknowledge it and apologize to you for being a jerk. It's so important to know and to have that piece of information. It's not so much that it's giving us a pass, but for me at least, it's an opportunity to be curious because I am in this journey of healing and forgiving myself, but also to find out who is the author of those stories. Who created those stories in my mind? Where are they coming from? And why am I so attached to those stories? And I think that a lot of women, and that's why I'm so passionate to work with women, we are all mirrors of each other's, and we see the same situation and circumstances, but we don't know where it's coming from, and finding that source is the missing ingredient pretty much,
Yeah,
correct?
absolutely. And that's what is so, for me, what I love so much about Dianetics is that you are able to locate the root cause of where these things come from and where the insecurities or the irrational behavior or the fears that hold you back, where those things come from, and actually get to the root of them. And there's different types of painful experiences that we go through. And of course, some of us have experienced very traumatic physical injuries or experiences. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
those are stored in your reactive mind. But then there's also things that are more subtle or not quite as severe, you might say, but that impact us just the same. Even when you undergo a surgery, that is pain and unconsciousness that even though you don't in the moment feel it, that memory is being stored in your reactive mind and it is still contained there. Then you also have emotional losses, the loss of a
Right.
loved one or a breakup or even a pet that you loved.
Mm-hmm.
These are all traumatic and painful experiences that we go through. So we've all experienced these different things. And I'll give you a very simple example just to illustrate how the reactive mind works. And something I think many of us have experienced is we eat a food and maybe it's not good. It's a tainted food. It's bad food. And we get sick from that. And so
Right.
then, of course, in that moment, our body is doing the right thing. It's getting rid of that poison in our body, but we don't
Mm-hmm.
feel good. We have the pain, we have the sensation, and all of that is being recorded and stored as an incident in our reactive mind. So
Mm-hmm.
then let's say, for the sake of this example, that the food that you ate was some eggs. And
Uh-huh.
so then later in life, let's say it's a year later, you're at a restaurant with some friends and someone orders this plate of eggs and it comes out and you look at it and boom, your reactive mind, because unfortunately your reactive mind is not your rational thinking mind, it just thinks in really exact pictures. So it
Right.
sees those eggs and thinks, ooh, that is going to make you sick because those eggs have to
Right.
do with being sick, which has to do with the pain in your stomach, which has to do with
Because that's the evidence that you
that's
have.
right. But if you take a step back and you look rationally, those eggs that are sitting next to you aren't the same eggs that were bad that you ate a year ago. So
Mm-hmm.
unless you have eaten that food, there's no way your body could actually be physically ill again, but yet
Right.
somehow your reactive mind is kicking in and actually giving you that nauseous feeling or that nervous feeling, whatever was there at the time of the original incident. So that's just a very simple example. But then if you take that into something bigger, like a relationship or even an experience you had when you were young as a child where maybe your parents spanked you, your mother was spanking you and telling you that you're no good, and then later in life something triggers that's similar to that and you start having these self-doubts and thinking, well,
Mm-hmm.
I'm not really very good, I'm no good. So you can
Right.
see how these past experiences can really influence our present time behavior below our awareness without us even knowing what is happening.
And it's not a one size fits all because even though we are all women, we go through the different experiences. But in your experience,
Mhm.
what is the common denominator, the thing that every woman struggles with when they come and see you?
Wow. I mean, as you said, it's definitely not one size fits all because the mind is structured the same, but of course, we
Hmm.
all have our own experiences. We've experienced all different things. Even two people who, let's say they're in the same car accident, they both have a different experience of that car accident.
Right.
So we, of course, all have these many different experiences and variables. So it differs from person to person. But I've talked to
Hmm.
many, many people and many women, and yeah, people out there are struggling with insecurities or self-doubts.
Hmm.
And that's something I think that is really important where Dianetics comes in because you can have so much potential and you can be very good at doing something. But when you start getting those internal self-doubts and
Hmm.
those little thoughts of, well, you're not quite as good as this person, so why even bother? Or you're never going to get that promotion because blah, 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 or whatever
Hmm.
these things might be. Those are the things that hold us back from actually continuing forward to achieve our goals. And they keep us, or they can keep us stagnant or not being and having truly the life that we want.
And those are the unseen forces that you talk about.
That's right. And because those insecurities and those self-doubts, those come from your reactive mind. And so those are contained in past traumatic experiences and
Hmm.
painful experiences. And some of those experiences, many of the experiences in your reactive mind, you might not even be aware of are there affecting you because some of them maybe happened when you were very, very young. Some of
Right.
them happened when you were unconscious. But even in moments of unconsciousness, and this is where the reactive mind is sometimes called the unconscious mind, is your reactive mind takes over in those moments of pain and unconsciousness. And
Right.
it's recording everything, all the smells, the sounds, the whatever you can see, whatever you're touching, it's that memory is all being recorded in your reactive mind. So if you have a moment where, let's say you do have an accident and you fall and you hit your head and you go unconscious, and maybe there's someone there with you that's concerned and is trying to help you, but they say something like, I always make the wrong choice. We shouldn't have come on this trail or something. Those words, I always make the wrong choice. That's
Right.
recorded in your reactive mind.
Right.
So, and because your reactive mind thinks so literally, it's the stupid part of your mind,
Mhm.
really. It can't
Right.
can't differentiate. So
Right. It
then
just absorb whatever information
that's
you
right.
are putting in it and it's not thinking this is true, this is not.
It can't rationalize like that. So then later you're in a stress, maybe you're a bit tired and maybe there's some similar sounds happening as what was happening there. And boom, that
Mm-hmm.
triggers. And you're sitting there and you suddenly start thinking, I always make the wrong choices. This isn't the right thing to do. I can't make this decision. And then there you go. You aren't able to decide on maybe it's something that's a huge career opportunity, but because that triggers, you're then holding yourself back from actually rationally and sanely being able to look at the data in front of you and decide with your own knowingness and certainty that this is the best decision and it will help you survive.
And it's so important how we speak to ourselves too. Because yeah, you can recognize the trigger and you probably don't know where the trigger is coming from. You don't have enough data to go to the source. But what you do have control is how you speak to yourself, how you act instead of reacting to that trigger, correct?
Yeah, it's very important to know and understand and recognize where those negative voices come from and understand and know that those aren't actually you. Because once you recognize that, you do have more control over those voices or those negative thoughts that creep in. And we all experience this. We all have those little thoughts that come in or after an argument or something, the
Mm-hmm.
thoughts then really start coming in. And so, but when you understand the mind and you understand what the true source of that is, you recognize that it's not actually you. And of course, by using the Dianetics methodology and the Dianetics technique, you're able to actually get to the root of those so you don't have those negative thoughts creeping in.
Or at least you don't have them as often. And I wanted to ask you, what is like a simple practice? I mean, of course, I know that it's a process, but something simple that my audience can try to begin releasing that emotional charge that we're talking about.
Yeah. So I'll give you just a very simple explanation of how the Dianetics methodology works, and then I'll
Mm-hmm.
tell you something very simple, which is also talked about in Dianetics to help kind of get rid of those triggers to some degree. So the Dianetics methodology is very simple and it's any two people can do it. You can read the book and you can sit down with another person and they can deliver the Dianetics technique to you and you can deliver it to them. And how it works is you actually go back into your past and you locate and find these moments of pain and unconsciousness and you recount them. You basically
Mm-hmm.
go through them a number of times. And as you're doing that, you're able to remove the negative emotional charge that is
Right.
connected to them. And so that emotional charge that's sitting there is what gives the reactive mind its power. So once
Mm-hmm.
you remove that negative emotional charge, that memory then just gets refiled into your analytical, your rational, your conscious, your thinking mind
Mm-hmm.
without the negative charge connected to it. So now you just have that. You can remember it. It's a memory. You can think about it. But that negative hold that it has on you isn't sitting there. So
Right.
that's
You remember like a movie, like
exactly.
no emotion attached to it. But I feel that this is kind of similar to EMDR, isn't it?
So it's different than that. I'm not entirely familiar with how that works, but I can tell you that
Mm-hmm.
it's very different in that, of course, you still have emotions. Like when you get rid of this negative, it's the negative emotional charge that's connected to it. And you can look back on that. And of course, you can still feel the emotions or have emotions about it. If you lose
Right.
someone, it's only appropriate that you think back on it with
Mm-hmm.
some emotion connected to it, not just like a robot or something. But
Right.
instead of looking back on that loss as being very sad all the time, many people who I've worked with through Dianetics, then when they look back on that loss after Dianetics, they can remember and feel the happiness and joy that came from that person. And instead of looking back on that those experiences with sadness and sorrow, it's more the positive aspects
Mm-hmm.
of it. So that's really Dianetics actually gives you more freedom to understand and feel your own emotions and have those different emotions. And one thing just to give as you mentioned, something that people can do on an immediate basis. And one thing that's covered in the book Dianetics is having a change of environment. Sometimes you can be in an environment continuously, and there's lots of different triggers in that environment. And you might not be aware even that there's triggers in the environment, but maybe if you're constantly upset or getting into fights with the same person, being able to change your environment and get out of that environment that continuously is having those triggers, it allows you to basically regain some of that analytical ability to think clearly instead of constantly having these triggers that are basically bringing back and putting the reactive mind into activation subconsciously.
You know what? It's so crazy that we're talking about this because I did have a conversation with somebody today in the morning. We were going through all this stuff and we were talking about somebody we know that is very attached to the gossip, right? And for me, gossiping is a very low energy, low vibration situation that I don't like.
Yeah.
It doesn't serve any purpose, but she also has a mother that is like that. So as long as she is in that environment, and it comes also the component of if I am like her, she's gonna love me, she's gonna like me. So there is a lot of conditioning in that situation. But when you are in that environment, it's very hard to break those patterns.
Yeah.
You know, I remove myself from my family. I moved to a different state. I love them from afar, but I didn't want that influence on my girls. And I knew that if I stayed, it was going to be very hard for me to control the environment because they're so used to it and the way they speak to each other, the way they talk down to each other. I didn't want my girls to be exposed to that. So I had to make that decision. It wasn't because I don't love you. It was because I love myself more and I want better for my girls. And sometimes you do have to make those decisions if you want to shift. Also, when I work with women, I notice that they have a hard time, better yet, they're afraid to look back into their emotional past. It's like, I want to change this, but I really don't want to go there, or I don't want to remember. There are some of them that don't remember, and they say, I don't want to remember. Why I have to remember? I'm okay without remembering. I took a different path. I didn't remember a lot of things for many years. I have blocks of my childhood that I didn't remember. Yet I noticed that I was triggered by certain things that didn't make sense to me. So I make the conscious decision to go back into my memory, to dig in. And it has been very painful because the good come with the bad and the ugly. So I had remembered things that I could have lived the rest of my life without knowing. But in the same, at the same time, I have learned why I had the partners I had, why I was looking, or why my love language is that love language. What do I need? Word of affirmations. What I am always at service. How my mind works in relation to other people and in other relationships in my life. And yes, it has been a very painful process because it's not easy to go back there. And a lot of people in general don't want to go back there. It's better just to keep looking to the front. And she actually said to me, why do you want to go back there? I mean, you're 59, you should just enjoy your life and your grandkids and whatever, and don't think about that. And I said, how am I going to heal? I do believe that we keep coming back until we learn our lesson. That's my personal belief, but how am I going to heal if I don't go there? You cannot fix a problem if you don't acknowledge there is a problem. And I need to go deeper and figure it out. Wait a minute. This is triggering me because at this age, this is what happened to me. And I'm tying this circumstance, this reality of that time with this one. And that's what I have this visceral reaction because it's not just you being upset. Sometimes you feel it in your whole body.
Totally.
It's like you are reliving the moment without the memory.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so true. And I think we all experience that. And there is a principle in Dianetics that the way out is the way through. And just like you said, like, yes, you do have to confront that pain and that loss and that upset, whatever it was. But by going through it and coming out the other side, that's the only way that you're going to make any improvement and have any gain. And so just like you're saying, absolutely, you can just continue to ignore something or pretend that it doesn't exist or pretend that it's not affecting you. But until you really, for yourself, and this is one thing that is very, again, I really love about Dianetics is it's you getting to understand it for yourself. It's not someone telling you what to think or why you feel this way or anything like that, but you understand it because the truth is that no one knows us better than we know ourselves. No one's experienced what we've gone through. No one's felt the things that we've felt. So as you're saying, absolutely looking at those experiences and being able to confront them and the good and the bad actually allows you to be able to then overcome them and grow as a person.
Yeah. What do you think is the difference between being ready? Because it's a decision you have to make. Okay, I'm going to dig in and I'm going to find out. Okay. So what's the difference between being ready and being tired of staying in the same? Do you see a difference when somebody goes through Dianetic when they are ready or I'm just tired? So yeah, sure, show me.
Yeah, I think again, it depends for different people. And sometimes we hit a point in our life, like you said, tired, or you feel so low that you're like, well, I have to do something now. And you've kind of hit rock bottom. So I've
Right.
definitely seen people at that point where they're like, okay, now I have to do something because what have I got to lose? And if I keep going down, I might end up dead. I've definitely seen people at that point. But then there's also people who are just want to know and understand themselves better and want to be a better person and find out how they can improve. And, that was for me, really, I wanted to know what I could do better at and how I could improve the things that I saw in myself I didn't like so much
Right.
and that I wanted to make those things better. So I do think that it can be different for every person. And again, it could be some horrible traumatic thing that happens, like the loss of a loved one that then drives someone to decide, okay, I now need to do something and I need to change my life. But then for a lot of us, I think we are basically good people and we do want to be the best version of ourselves. And sometimes we don't know how to go about doing that. And sometimes
Right.
we get stuck in these cycles or these patterns that maybe we don't recognize. Maybe we recognize to some degree, but again, we try to think positive or we try journaling or whatever we try, but then somehow those things just keep coming back. So
Right.
then we go, okay, so I need to do something a bit more to really find out what's happening, what's causing this, how do I get to the root cause of that? And so with Dianetics, I've definitely seen all ends of that spectrum from if I keep going any lower in life, I'll end up dead to I'm doing pretty well in life, but I'd like to do better and I'd like to be an even better person. So I want to know more about myself. So I really think it just depends on you, but I do think that any improvement comes from you. No one can tell you have to improve and make you improve,
Right. You have to make that decision.
That's right. It has to be.
I always say that you're not going to wake up one day and say, I'm ready. No,
Yeah.
you make the decision and then you're ready. And
Yeah.
then you get the courage and then you get more motivated.
Yeah.
Because I think it comes down to I am tired to surviving. So now I really want to leave. And that is something very personal that everybody goes through. I had sometimes women that call me and they have the discovery call with me and they tell me all their problems and everything that they want to fix. And then they're like, okay, let me think about it. I'm like, then think about it. Because I have a thing about that. Like, I'm not going to sell you a car. If you're not ready, you're not ready. You will be ready when you're ready. I won't chase. I'm here, But they are not ready. That's why they don't make that commitment. They don't make that investment on themselves.
Yeah.
So it is very personal to come to terms with that. Okay, do I like my life? Is this the life I want to live? I am able to live the rest of my life in survival mode. And also, I noticed that a lot of people label that feeling like my ego trying to protect me.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, what is your ego telling you? Well, my ego is telling me that I should not go in that date because I'm going to get hurt again. Okay, that's a decision you already made. That is a limiting belief that you're carrying with you. and you have no idea how that date is going to go until you go to the date, because if you do know how that date is going to go, you're losing money. You should be predicting, I don't know, the weather or what's going to happen in a week from now. Nobody knows. But we have these preconceptions in our head, and we use those labels like the ego to justify not making that decision, not going after that job, not pursuing the relationship, when in reality, is our mind giving us all the evidence that we are not worthy of all that.
Yeah, it's so true. And it is just like we were talking about earlier, you are the only one who holds yourself back. And you're right. And I've experienced that too. And it sometimes does take quite some courage and bravery to say, okay, I'm going to actually do something and I'm going to make a change and I'm going to address the things that I don't really want to look at, but that I know if I address those things within myself, I can be a better person. And that's really, I've worked with many, many people and experienced that. One for one, whenever someone does decide, okay, I'm going to do something and I'm going to improve, just even having that decision and taking that first step. And, in what I work with, someone deciding to read the book Dianetics, they have so much improvement just from even taking that first step and making that motion towards improving themselves. And as you mentioned earlier, there's a difference between levels of survival. You can be surviving and living not very well, but sure, you're alive and you're eating and that's fine.
You're showing up every day and nobody knows.
Yeah.
So it's all good.
Right. But a lot of us have goals and we have dreams and we want to achieve certain things. And also not only just for us as individuals, but for our families and for our communities and our society as a whole, we have goals and purposes. And so with Dianetics, I personally, and I've seen it with a lot of people, but it allows you to really utilize your full ability and your full potential to remove that reactive mind, which is the thing that's holding you back. And it is the unwanted emotions and insecurities and self-doubts that come in. Once you're free of those, you're able to take your ability and increase your survival, as you're saying, and increase your life and go get closer and closer to actually have and achieve the goals that you want to achieve.
I'm sorry, I'm not familiar with the system, but do you replace beliefs or you just detach the emotion from the memory?
Good question. So no, basically the reactive mind, everything that's contained in the reactive mind is essentially a memory. It just is covered with negative emotional charge, basically. Okay. So that is part of the reason why sometimes people can't remember things in their past, is because it has this negative emotional charge connected to it. So with the methodology of Dianetics, you get to find and locate and address those past painful experiences, remove that negative emotional charge, and then that memory, it's like if you had two filing cabinets, and one of them is your reactive mind and one of them is your analytical mind. So then as you remove the negative mental energy from that memory in your reactive mind, it then moves from the filing cabinet of the reactive mind to the analytical mind. So you absolutely still have all of your memories. And as I said, of course, no one can ever take that away from you. Those are your experiences. You've been through that. You've felt it. So it's your life, and life happens and it has its ups and its downs. So, but by removing that negative mental emotional charge that's connected to it, you then have your full potential and ability to look at that memory and use that data from that experience now in the present and think rationally about it, instead of having that memory sitting there subconsciously influencing your present time decisions without you even being aware that it's there and that it's doing that.
Right. And that probably explains why some women go after the same kind of men. They have the same kind of relationship with their friends because that's a pattern. That's what they know. And without knowing it, they have enough evidence in their brain that that's what they should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. Those patterns, those cycles, when you see a woman who goes from just one abusive relationship to the next, that is because of the reactive mind and because of the subconscious influence from some command in some past painful experience telling her and sticking her to those types of people, even though probably sometimes she knows that this doesn't make
Right.
any
I
sense.
was that. I'm sure that there are
Yeah.
moments of clarity where
Yeah.
she's like, oh my gosh, my last three boyfriends are exactly the same, emotionally unavailable or drinkers or whatever it
Yeah.
is. And I'm being attracted to those guys. I need to find out why.
That's right. Exactly. And so definitely that's a point where like I've seen people in not exactly that example, but similar where it's like, oh my gosh, I recognize that I have this pattern or I have this thing, or in their
Hmm.
careers, they just can never seem to get past a certain point. And
Right.
they know that it's their own sort of self-sabotage that happens or their own fear of taking a chance. And so
Right.
they want to know, why does this happen to me? And that is answered in Dianetics. And you get to understand where those things come from and how that reactive mind actually influences you subconsciously and how you can get rid of it. And once you rid yourself of your reactive mind, you reach a state called clear. You've cleared your reactive mind. Yeah. And you then are able to fully be yourself and all the best parts of yourself and utilize your intelligence and your creativity and achieve your goals and utilize your full potential to reach those goals.
Wow. And when somebody comes and work with you,
Mhm.
after how long you start seeing the shift?
So honestly, it's different for every single person, but it could be in a matter of hours. Some people, it takes several sessions. Some people, in their first session, I can tell you there was one young man who he unfortunately had a very traumatic experience when he was little, and his parents both died rather
Mhm.
tragically. And he was placed in foster care. And he grew up in foster care and went to therapy pretty much for most of his young adult life. And then he found Dianetics as a man. And we have at all of our centers, we have a two day weekend seminar that a person can do. And he was doing that seminar. And after just a couple hours of doing the Dianetics methodology, he finished that session and he said that he was able to address something and actually handle it, get to the root of it that he had been trying to and working to address in his 10 years of going to therapy, which he had never been able to handle. And that was just from literally a few hours. So it depends, but I've seen it time and time again where it really is just it can be a couple of hours and a person can handle and address something major in their life and release so much emotional charge that it handles something and makes a very positive change very quickly. And then, of course, as you keep doing that and as you keep releasing this emotional charge over time and as you keep working at it, you then do achieve the state of clear.
Wow. It's so interesting to me. I want to learn more. I have a newsletter every week with the episode, and I always recommend a book. So I will be having this book in the newsletter. If anybody wants to subscribe to my newsletter, the link is in the bottom in the description of the show. It's very juicy to do this because when I write those emails and I send it to my audience, I really write more stuff that perhaps is not in the show or, that can bring them deeper into the subject that we're talking about. And I find this so interesting. And I am super curious about it. I want to learn more about it. You talk about a weekend seminar or retreat. That is just for information, or they really dig into the way you can start healing yourself?
Oh no, you dig in, you get going. It's a 2 day weekend seminar. It's delivered at our centers. We have centers all around the world, actually. And
Mm-hmm.
it's Saturday and Sunday from about 9 in the morning till 6 o'clock at night. And you actually, under the supervision of a trained Dianetics counselor, you learn how to deliver the technique of the Dianetics, but then you also receive the Dianetics technique. So you either bring a friend with you to the seminar so you guys can do it together, or you pair up with
Mm-hmm.
someone else who's doing it. And
Right.
over the course of the weekend, you deliver the methodology back and forth. And I'll say that also being able to help someone to overcome something
Yeah.
that has been affecting them, that in itself is
So
so,
rewarding.
yeah, so beneficial and so rewarding just for you. So doing,
Especially if you're doing it with your partner,
oh,
right? And you're
absolutely.
both healing, or your best friend, or your
Yeah.
daughter, or your son, that you perhaps have a little bit of a conflict and you don't know what that conflict is coming from.
Mhm.
And it's not really something you did,
Yeah.
it's something that is ingrained in your brain, and then you cannot recognize it, but you keep going into these patterns with your child, and you don't know how to handle it anymore. This is a good option. This is a
That's
good
right.
way that you can go and find out, okay, this is what's happening to me. This is how my behavior is affecting my relationship with my kid. And in the same token, he or she can heal from whatever they received from you because
Yeah.
you were not healed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's really quite a beautiful experience, and I definitely suggest if anyone's interested, it's a great way to get started and really get started on the adventure of you.
Yeah, I love that. Alyssa, thank you so much for being here. We can talk for another hour because I have 1,000 questions. I'm going to have your information in the description of the show, but really fast, where can they find more aside of buying the book? Where can
Yeah.
they find out more about this?
So if you go to Dianetics.org, there is a brief 5-minute introduction about Dianetics, a introductory video right there on the website. And you can also
Mhm.
download the first section of the book for free on the website. And then, of course, if you wanted to read the book, you can get it there. You can also get it at Amazon or Barnes and Noble or really
Mhm.
anywhere that books are sold.
Perfect. Thank you so much for being on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thank you, Claudia. Thanks for having me.
Thank you all for listening to the Don't Shrink to Fit podcast. If you like this episode, please write a juicy comment below and subscribe to my podcast. Remember, we can only fly if we embrace each other. Until next week, be happy, be safe, and be kind to yourself.